There we go.
But he's got to put theirs on.
Can all of the participants hear us? Please either raise your hand or type in yes. Got one hand up. No other replies, so no one's complaining. That's a good thing. Well, Mr. Mayor.
Beast, Canada, British Columbia, Invest in Innovation.
Right, we're gonna resolve into the committee the whole meeting.
Points with everybody today. First of all, what is a budget? Good question. You think everybody knows, but high level, it's an estimate of income and expenditures for a set period of time. So the District of Sicamou's budget is for a 5-year period, 2021 to 2025. Why do we do them and why are they important? Well, as a municipality, we are legislative to do a budget. However, they are important because they help us plan, organize, track, and improve the financial situation for the District of Sicamous. They guide the pursuit of long-term goals and objectives and priorities. And most importantly, they help establish the tax rates for the District of Sicamous. So we have our budgets and we have our actuals. Actuals are important. However, it's what the budget is what establishes the tax rate. So a budget is really important for a municipality as well as for everybody's personal lives. And with that, a budget must support some key documents that a municipality has. First of all, our infrastructure master plans, which indicate what capital infrastructure we need to do and when we need to do it and how much it costs. So the budget must support that. In addition, it must support the revenue, tax, and budget policy, which determines how we want to lay out our tax ratios and how much money we want to be putting away into reserves on an annual basis. It must also follow the fees and charges bylaw. This is the bylaw that outlines our water rates, our sewer rates, and any other fees that we charge. And most importantly, it must outline our strategic priorities. In order to achieve our strategic priorities, we need to assign some resources and money towards them. So here I came across Councillor Malmus's and Councillor Anderson's iPads the other day. And on them, look at that, they had the priorities just listed on there. Councillor Malmus had the District of Sicamouse's priorities, and Councillor Anderson had the District of Sicamous Development Corporation's priorities. So on their iPads. They have them all listed, and we definitely have money going to all of these priorities as they are important. And in order to achieve them, we need to assign a dollar value to them. Other things that come into play when talking about budgets are reserves, grants, and taxes. So reserves, the question is do we have enough? My answer is I'm not sure. However, our annual contributions seem to be within a reasonable range. Our general fund is within our policy range, which is 10 to 15% of taxation revenue. So we're good there. Our sewer fund is within our policy range, which is 20 to 30% of sewer revenues. Our water fund, however, is not within our policy range. However, we expect to achieve to be in the bottom part of that range in 2022. And over the 5-year term, we get that $159,000 increased to about $295,000 in year 5 of the 5-year budget. So we're going in the right direction. Next is grants. Grants are essential for the District of Sicamous. Our operating grants for the 2021 year total $963,000, which equates to a 21.2% tax savings. So in order to achieve those same things, we would need, if we didn't have the grant dollars, it would cost an additional 21.2% in tax dollars. That 963 covers a variety of grants that we have out there right now. Of that 963, 252,000 relates to the COVID grant, and that money is going to be used to offset extra expenses as a result of acquiring the medical clinic and to offset lost revenues for the hockey academy as well as for the daycare to supplement that. So that's what that grant money will be used for in 2021. Our capital grants, also not too shabby, $5.5 million in 2021, which represents 53% of the total capital budget for 2021. And taxes, what is the impact? So a 1% tax increase generates approximately $45,000 for the District of Sicamous and costs the average homeowner in Sicamous about $15.88 per year. So that are just some high level goodies for you. And now into some more meat and potatoes, project highlights. So what are we working on this year? Roads and bridges, we have a budgeted investment of $4.4 million. I scooped up our operations manager's iPad and noticed he had Sicamous Bridge right on top there for $3.1 million this year. That's the remainder of the budget, and it's planned to be spent in 2021. Of the $3.1 million, 63% of that is with grant dollars. We also are planning to do $675,000 worth of road works on Main Street as it ties to the new medical clinic in the upcoming years, as well as a few other paving projects in town. Recreation. Didn't know our town manager was on Facebook, but I did find his recreation here. And people were asking, what is happening with recreation programming in Sicamous? Well, Mr. P said he's, enhancement of existing facilities and programming is the goal for 2021. Then he eloquently summarized the capital projects we are working on in 2021, which totals $8.4 million. The largest one is the Beach Park washroom and concession improvements, of which 73% of that is grant funded, and we're hopefully starting that within the next week. Then we are budgeted to complete some works at Finlayson Waterfront, some upgrades there, a lot of planning going into that, as well as some development of the mountain bike park, which is phased over the next couple of years, and a few trail improvements. So that's what our recreation is looking like. Community Health Center, our communications officer posted is this a tweet or an Instagram? DOS has taken on healthcare services. It's a $5.9 million project, of which 100% of that is grant funded. The site location is 417 and 425 Main Street, the front portion of that. So in 2021, the plan is to do site cleanup and planning, design for the construction, which is to occur in 2022 and 2023. And then I grabbed Wendy's cell phone, and she was texting her husband, Tom, about the bioheat facility. And did you hear that Sicamous is building a bioheat facility? So Tom was surprised, what is going on? And where is it going? The industrial lot, and it's being paid for primarily by way of grants. So she says, oh, wow, it's going to be a busy year. Maybe she should retire early, but I've convinced her not to. So we're all good. This bioheat facility is total projected cost of 1.79 million, which 87% of that is grant funded, and it's phased over a couple of years. The first piece is the boiler system. The second piece is the distribution. And then nobody was talking about water and infrastructure. However, it's still important. We're investing $1.2 million into our water and sewer infrastructure, 864 into the completion of some wastewater treatment plant upgrades, and $250,000 on some Main Street water line upgrades. And that will be tying to the roadworks. And there's so much more. I took a picture of Jen's computer. It's full of Post-it notes with all the other things that we're working on. This doesn't even include it all. Transportation and trail planning, zoning bylaw, campground development, healthcare services, hockey academy and daycare facility management, economic development, affordable housing land, housing needs assessment. These are just a few, and there's more. I know I've forgotten some, but this just shows you that we're working on lots. So how much will this cost me? That is the question. So an average homeowner in Sicamous. So right now, the budget in front of everybody this evening has a proposed tax increase of 1.51%. This equates to $24 per year for an average homeowner. Our water rates, the average annual bill is increasing by approximately 5%, which is up from $400 to $420, which is $20 per year. Our sewer bill, the average sewer bill is going up 2.4% from $336 to $344, or $8 per year. So if you sum up all those increases, that works out to $52 a year more. So it's basically $1 a week more for the additional community services we're providing, as well as the ability to flush your toilet and drink clean water. So I think it's pretty good. Just so everybody knows, the average water and sewer bill together for the year for a homeowner for 2021 is expected to be about $764. So that's how much water and sewer is if you're metered, which works out to about $2 a day. And then if you wanted to calculate your own municipal taxes, because I'm sure everybody wants to, for $100,000 of assessment value, $455 of municipal taxes is what you'll pay. And as you can see, the business rate is almost twice that. So for every $100,000 of assessment value, your business tax will be $879, and that's in municipal taxes. And a little nugget for you, that your municipal taxes actually only form 57% of your total property tax bill. As you can see from this lovely chart in this lovely shade of brown, 25% is actually school taxes. So it's called school taxes, but it's really provincial taxes. It goes to the province in a big lump sum, and they allocate it how they deem fit. So municipal taxes, 57%, school taxes, 24%, and then some other ones that are larger pieces are the regional district. So Columbia Shuswap Regional District is 6.4%. And this one, I believe 4.2 is the North Okanagan Regional Hospital District. So, and then there's other police tax, BC assessment, Municipal Finance Authority. So these are all little bits that form part of your tax bill. We collect it all and then we pay it out. Okay. And then the plan. So here is a cut and paste of the financial plan bylaw 2021 to 2025. It looks lovely. And more importantly, the revenues, less the expenses, plus and minus all the transfers that we do, it balances at the end of the year. So that is mission accomplished. So to summarize the budget in some lovely charts versus a spreadsheet. I've done a lovely chart here. This is a summary of the revenue. So our revenues for 2021 are 14.7 million. So this also, I refer to it as the funnel, or a wine glass with no bottom. And as you can see, the majority of our revenue actually is from grants, which is just shows how much we rely on it. 79% of our income comes from grants and property taxes. Last year, it was 83%. So grants was number one on the list. So for the last 2 years, we have, and this is both capital and operating grants. So very important to the DOS. And then thirdly is our water and sewer revenue, about 1.7 million. And then these are other smaller amounts of revenue streams. And sorry, this block didn't show up very well. However, you can focus on the visual, not the writing. So the next one is the expense summary, or you can call this, I like to call it the candle holder. Our expenses are about 7.2 million for the year. The highest being general government and transportation, which is consistent with prior year. However, what is a little different is not recreation, is health and welfare. This makes up about 9% of the total budgeted expenditures for the year. Last year, it was only 2%. Last year, it was only cemetery costs. This year, we have cemetery, we have healthcare, we have daycare costs. I moved the Main Street property, the operating costs for that, into health and welfare, because that is where the new medical building will be. So health and welfare has increased, as well as development and planning has increased. Right now, it's at 9.7% of total expenditures. I believe last year we were at 8%. So just a little bit more, but overall, it's a relatively consistent makeup of expenses. And to finish it off, we have the profile of a diamond ring here, a very large one. And this is our capital summary. So we're budgeted to spend 10.4 million on capital. The largest piece, no surprise, roads and bridges, 42% or $4.4 million. This is because we have the Salsquisickamoose Bridge in there, which really makes it a lot higher. And then our general, which is land, bioheat, healing center, that's at 2.7 million. And thirdly is recreation at 1.9 million. So those are our three largest capital expenditures for the year. And that is an overview with visuals versus a spreadsheet. Next steps, pretty easy today. Later on in the meeting, we will do 3 readings of the financial bylaw. And then at the next meeting, we will take the bylaw for adoption. Something I wanted to point out is that currently we have a proposal in to operate the rec center. This budget does not include any revenues or expenditures for the operations of the rec center. If we are successful with that bid and we do take on the management of it, shortly after we finalize the budget, I will be bringing it back for amendments. Just at this point, there's too many uncertainties and questions. So we're going ahead with a budget like this, and we will be making an amendment to the budget once that is determined and finalized. So just so everybody's aware of that. And our tax rate bylaw needs to be adopted prior to May 15th. So it'll be at the May 12th meeting for adoption. And with that, I will leave you with a beautiful picture of which we all want to be right there right now. And I'll open the floor and the gallery. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Comments or questions? Councillor Malmus, go ahead. Councillor Bushel, you're next.
This is by far the best presentation you've made in the 5 years that I've been here. Excuse me. I just have one comment. Could you find any Canadian money to put up on?
That is a great question. And no, I couldn't find a picture that had proper the way I liked it. And it did bother me that there was US dollars there.
I noticed that as well. Councillor Bushel.
The chair, yeah, this is a great presentation, Kelly. You're probably about a month ahead of time, or ahead of schedule, actually, compared to last year doing the presentation, and your financial program you have must be working really well, because it's a great presentation.
Thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
I'm going to echo Gord Kelly, great presentation and lots of clarity in projects that are going on right now. So hopefully the gallery and that answered some of the questions that do fly across on Rand or Facebook, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So a lot of clarity. And if anyone needs any more, definitely they need to pick up the phone and give you a call. But great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you through the chair. Kelly, thanks for making it understandable. Very, very good. Good stuff.
Thank you. I enjoy doing it.
Counselor McCabe.
Yeah, very well done presentation. You make it very engaging, and you set the bar high every year. I don't know how you're going to outdo yourself next year.
I'll find a way.
And by looking after the taxpayers' money, you also make council look really good and help us achieve our visions and our priorities. So thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Counselor Aries.
I really appreciate this being so clear to everybody because it's really important for transparency. Public needs to understand where all this money is going. And this is just great. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks.
Good job, Kelly.
There were no hands up or questions from the panel.
All right. And then later on this evening, when we're in our regular meeting, there'll be first, second, third reading for the financial plan then.
Any questions in there?
No questions. All.
No. Well done. Good presentation, Kelly, and just indication of how much we got going on. And I know there's times where you get a bit concerned when council wants to do something else, but you seem to be able to get it done for us. So good work.
Yep.
Forward to getting that resolution passed through council tonight. All right, going on to 5C, strategic priorities and portfolio updates. There's a revised development of a housing project to support for affordable housing projects. There's a recommendation that the committee recommend that council approve revising the strategic priorities to amend priority number 5 to support affordable housing projects with a multi-term commitment. I need a mover. Councillor McCabe. I need a seconder. Councillor Aries. Comments or questions on this at this stage when it comes to priorities? Councillor McCabe, you're up.
Yeah, if I could just quickly speak to this. So it's on our strategic priorities as I'm not sure, number 5, I think I might be wrong. But we're nearing completion with our current project that we're partnering with the Senior Housing Society. Our obligation was to provide them with some land, and we've identified some land and we're working towards that. So the intent here is to keep this, because Sicamous has a housing crunch for affordable housing rentals, is to keep this on the strategic priorities even after our current project is finished, as a strategic priority over multiple terms, or how is it phrased here, over multi-term commitment. So that's why it's on here.
Okay. Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
That it needs a correction because it says it's the current term.
Well, that's because we haven't passed this resolution yet.
All right. Any other comments or questions on the resolution? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, so moving on to the next session here. So we're into council's reports. So Councillor Bushel, you're up. As we're in the committee of the whole meeting, go ahead, get the start.
To the chair, you see, I'm not prepared today, but just been busy meeting with some developers and meeting with recreation, spent some time with Jamie and went over the rec center stuff, and a few meetings with Kelly and Jennifer on the electric cart bylaw and a few things like that. So it's been pretty quiet.
Good. Councillor Anderson.
We finally got the council newsletter down from 12 pages to 1, and it's probably in everyone's mailbox now. I was happy to see that Councillor Aries included Chamber of Commerce memberships in your paragraph there. I went to the Chamber of Commerce meeting the other night, and they are about driving memberships right now, because we support the Chamber of Commerce. Of course, we support that drive. So it's really important for us as a district and for companies within the district of Sicamous to If you're going out for an RFP, look at one of our chamber members first, or include the chamber members as well. So, because that's really important. I also had a couple of ECDev meetings in the last couple of weeks. So that's just keeping busy. So thanks.
Counselor McCabe.
Yeah, I don't have much to report. I've been busy, but earlier today, we brought out in camera a letter from Ministry of Transportation and Highways regarding the current status of Bruin Bridge project. And so that'll be posted on our website, I believe, for the public to view, just they can see what the ministry is saying and what we've been asking. That's all I have for report.
Thanks, Counselor Airy.
Nothing to report.
Counselor Malmus.
Through the chair. So I guess in the last couple of weeks, been listening to some developers. I met with Scott, our development services person, new to Sycamoose. We talked about the marina bylaws. Been working on the rail trail. I was at the rail trail meeting. Terry was the current representative. He stepped down and I was accepted, so I could actually say something. And then shortly after that, I was voted as the alternative chair. So
Congratulations.
So then there was a letter that went around either earlier today or yesterday that Richard Manwaring was appointed as deputy minister to Minister Donaldson for Flinroe. And so I sent a text to Evan asking him if there was a way that we could maybe get that community forest back in front of somebody, because meetings that we had with Mr. Richard Manwaring were great meetings. He seemed supportive. I know he's the deputy minister, not the minister. So if I could, I'd like to ask Mr. Parliament if he could speak to exactly what the letter would be. Because I've never seen the letter. He just said it was done.
Yeah, so through the chair, I was informed yesterday, actually through our daily BC email update of this appointment. Then I confirmed it with the ministry. Minister Donaldson stepped down at the last election, last fall. There is a new minister, and Richard Manwaring has been appointed deputy minister, which is important for us because he is the one person, as Councillor Malmus mentioned, that has been sympathetic and took the time to listen to ourselves, Enderby and Splatson, on trying to find a way to fit a community forest in this region. And with that appointment, I think it's only imperative that we reach out, congratulate him, and remind that the three partners are still desirous to locate a community forest in our region, and we'd like to resume talks.
Thank you.
And that'll be the end of my report.
Okay, thanks. Counselor Evans.
Not really anything to report, except in regard to one of our strategic priorities, I had it and I lost it. It's number 10, to increase educational opportunities and enrollment in local schools. Well, the enrollment in our local schools has gone up quite a bit, and I'm meeting new students all the time that are moving here, and obviously their families as well. But one thing that we really need to work on is helping to get our graduates from grade 12 to go to college and to find something immediately that fall, so they have kind of a vision. And we'll be doing graduate interviews soon, but we're really trying to work on a way to help some students that don't have a way to get to college in Salmon Arm to get there. It's very, very important, because we don't want to get students feeling stuck in Sycamoose when they have incredible potential. So we have to work on that. That's something we're working on with the high school right now. that we're going to be working on harder this spring. So thank you.
All right, mayor's report. So Interior Health has targeted several rural and remote communities with expanding their plans with the COVID rollout. So every Thursday now for the last month, I've been attending roundtable discussions on the vaccine rollouts. So we got quite a bit of media coverage here just recently with the rollout in Sycamoose, Global Television, Kamloops Radio, and Eagle Valley News. I want to thank Donna Heglison, you know, with all the work that she's done as she works with Interior Health and the Senior Center, and we were given the opportunity to start vaccinating people in Sycamoose as of this morning. And we've had over 900 people register. And that's for the first 5 days of the vaccinations. And really, really excited about that. Myself and Councillor McCabe joined in this morning, and with prayers from Spalatzin, we opened up the session, and people are starting to get vaccinated. So Salmon Report Committee update on all the improvements, and with budgetary talks, we went through that, and we'll be seeing some improvements to the airport in Salmon Arm. CSRD Municipal Directors Meeting, there's an update on municipal concerns from CSRD Municipal Directors and all the municipalities within the CSRD. One thing that came to mind was the Revelstoke Task Force for Recovery from COVID-19. And it's well done document, and I intend to give that to Carly from our Economic Development Board. So CSR board meeting, MOTI made a presentation regarding the Broome Bridge. And it was somewhat accepted by the CSRD and was presented by Jennifer Sykes, the contractor that's in charge of the concept design for Broome Bridge. White Lake Fire Department was named Fire Department of the Year this year in the CSRD. At the Rail to Trail Governance meeting, I attended that meeting, and Mr. Councillor Malmus was accepted by the council or by the committee as the appointee by the District of Sycamoose's council. And at the same time, as he also mentioned, that he was also elected vice chair for the north of the CSRD component of the Rail to Trail. North Okanagan Hospital Board meeting, budget for 2021 5-year plan. Focus was on inpatient beds for the mentally ill. Very in-depth meeting when it comes to the hospital board. And as Kelly pointed out on our budget presentation today, what we pay for tax base for the support of medical care and hospitals, and the hospitals within the North Okanagan Hospital area is Golden, Revelstoke, Vernon, including the component within Armstrong and Enderby, and of course Salmon Arm. Victor Cummings got a hold of me and was really pleased with the resolutions that we put forward in regards to the Asian mussels. Thanks to Councillor Anderson for getting that involved, or getting us involved in that. And so we have total support from Vernon on that. And coming up, Economic Trust of the Southern Interior, used to be CITIC. The ETSI board meeting has got a whole lot of new direction and some great focus, and look forward to getting the opportunity where we can start putting in grant applications in order to help support economic development in Sycamores. So that's my report. Fairly busy couple of weeks for me, and anyway, moving forward. So thank you. So next, we will just rise and report recommendation that the committee of the whole now rise and report, and that the recommendation from the March 24th, 2021 committee of the whole be adopted. I need a mover. Councillor Bushel, Councillor Anderson, all in favor? Carried, thank you. So Phaedra, do we have any participants online that would like to address council at this particular time?
Did message out to ask if anyone would like to speak. No one has raised their hand at this time.
No one at all?
No, we've got 9 attendees.
Got all of this
If you'd like to.
technology and we're just loving to use it. All right, well, if that's the case, then we'll move on. Okay, staff reports, development variance permit, application number 21-031-DVP 1005, 1009, 1010, 1012, 1013, 1015, 1016, and 1017 North Hemlock Crescent. There's a recommendation that the District of Sycamoose authorize and issue development variance permit number 21-031-DVP to vary section 601 2B to maximum height of buildings and structures to increase the maximum permitted height for an accessory building from 6.0 meters to 7.0 meters this 24th day of March 2021. I'll get a mover on this, Councillor Malmas, seconded by Councillor Anderson. Scott, can you give us a report? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I believe the applicant, Mr. Gibro, is online right now, so if anybody has any questions, he should be available for that as well. This is an application for a development variance permit to vary the height of an accessory building from 6 meters to 7 meters. And it actually affects a number of properties. And there's one property who chose not to participate in the variance. It's on Hemlock Drive, and on the backside, you can see some of the properties back on Highway 97. And there was a variance in the past to vary the front setback line, to vary the setback from the front parcel line for those properties back on Highway 97 to give them some more space in their backyard and even further from Highway 97.
Yes, you requested to unmute.
I've taken you off mute, so if you want to answer any questions or speak, you can.
No, I was just here to answer any questions. I understood that most of the residents were approved the variance. And I was just here to answer any questions you had.
Perfect, thank you.
So here's another drawing showing the development. The houses that have the houses on them, or the properties that have houses on them, have a building permit in play, and the stars represent the lots that have been sold. So the applicant, he's the builder. Someone made a request to have an accessory building that was higher than 6 meters or 7 meters. So as the builder, he's put this out to the entire development to allow that people have the larger accessory buildings, mainly for people so they can store boats or RVs in their accessory building on their property. Here's a drawing just showing what it could look like. The maximum height for a home is 10 meters. This is a single story home. So this just kind of shows what it would look like with a slightly taller accessory building. Properties are zoned R1 and R2. The OCP, they're medium density residential. And we did have some input from one of the property owners who chose not to submit anything, but they actually chose not to participate in the variance, and they just had a concern with shade from their yard from these smaller buildings. But again, the single family development is 10 years. So very much. We did send this out for referrals, and we didn't receive anything from the building inspector, but the fire department, operations, and enforcement had no issues. And we did notify the neighbors within 15 years. years. And, we understand that from the- So again, staff is recommending that issue is relatively minor in nature, and it does include a number of problems.
All right, you open for questions? Okay, Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
Through the chair, now maybe the holdout of 1014 might think it's the right thing to do, but that's the current property owner. But when the property resells and the guy next door's got this 7-meter garage at the back of their property, would it not make sense to include him? He doesn't have to build anything in it. So why would we not just have that? Or because did the property owner request to be excluded specifically? Or as a council, can we say, no, we're gonna make this as a block item? Because at some point I can see a different owner coming back and suggesting they want to have one of those high grade. Well, so just a question.
Yeah, I don't know a situation where council has buried something where someone hasn't made an application for it. It would usually be done through a bylaw amendment saying like, everybody in this development or in this zone would have a special exemption of some kind. But they did actively say they didn't want to participate, so I don't see an advantage for the council to force them to participate.
Councillor McCabe, go ahead.
Thank you. Could I ask you to go back to that previous arrow? Thank you. So on lots 17, 15, 13, 9, 5, and 01, that all butt up to our trail on Highway 97 there. The trail runs north-south, and these buildings will be in the backside of the property. So, and the sun's east-west, so sets in the west. So that would put shade on the trail an hour, or it'd make the trail have less daylight hours on the trail. Has that been considered as any kind of an impact to our trail system, because it'll actually block the sun earlier in the evening on the trail?
Not until this moment did I consider the sunlight on the trail. I think going from 6 meters to 7 meters, I don't know. I don't think that's going to maybe affect the trail that much. And then the houses could be built to 10 meters. So the 7 meters is still less than what could be built.
True. Just a question, yeah. It's part of looking through our wellness lens.
Councillor Anderson.
I think Councillor, okay, I just want to make a comment to that. Malcolm, I have walked that trail and it's heavily treed anyway, so. I get.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, we, on our new bylaws, we did ask Mark to include a higher garage because of our bylaw. This is only 19 feet, which is a pretty low garage. I know a lot of people that have actually had to get had to get a variance on a lot of their garages in town. So our new bylaw will have higher garages in it. So I don't think it'll affect that 1014 because it'll be revamped in no time.
All right. Any other comments or questions on this before I ask the question? All right, I'm hearing nothing, so I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thanks, Scott. Don't sit down.
See, I voted.
All right, B, development variance permit application number 21-025 DVP 251 Old Town Road. There's a recommendation that the district of Sycamoose authorize and issue development variance permit number 21-025 DVP to vary one, section 703 2CI setbacks for dwellings, accessory residential buildings and mobile homes, all lot lines to reduce the minimum permitted setback for an accessory residential building from 10.0 meters to 2.0 meters. And two, section 703 2F I, maximum gross floor area for an accessory residential building and restricted agricultural buildings to increase the maximum gross floor area for all accessory residential buildings from equal to 10%, 168.4 meters squared to equal of 16%, 178.4 meters. This 24th day of March 2021. I need a mover on this. Counselor Malmus moves it. So Counselor Aries seconds it. Now for discussions. Scott, can you give us another report?
Thank you very much. So this property is on Old Town Road. As you can see, it's a property that was subdivided from a larger property at some point. I think it was the Abbott Orchard. And this was subdivided off in 1996, possibly, and all the buildings that existed prior to that. And the existing buildings were actually built prior to the zoning bylaw. So they were all pre-existing and yeah, so they don't necessarily conform to the zoning as it is. So 0.56 hectares in size. The property or it's owned large holdings. The minimum parcel size of large holding is 18 hectares. So this one is a little bit of an anomaly, and that's part of the reason that they're asking for these setbacks. As some of the rules for the large holding zones are meant for much larger properties, and since this one is smaller, the percentage of parcel coverage for accessory buildings, yeah, it's pretty tough to do. So here's the proposal. There's an existing house. It's shaded black on this drawing, and the proposal is to move the house to the east, and then they would like to construct a new house in its place, and then they would decommission the old house and turn it into an accessory building. So the setbacks right now are 10 meters, and they'd like to go within that 2-meter setback. There's just south of the proposed new location for the house is an existing shop. You can see it's at the 2-meter setback. And yeah, the gross floor area for accessory buildings in the zone is 10%, and this would bring it up to 16% in this zone. And then here's the drawing that was prepared by Mark Lamberton. He's the agent for the applicants. He may be online as well if you have any questions for him. The property is within the agricultural land reserve, and you can see the shaded area to the south. I believe that is the floodplain. So that's identified as floodplain. This building would be moved further out of the floodplain, and the setback from the floodplain is 15 meters. It's 15 meters from the natural boundary of the Eagle River. The Eagle River is actually quite far from the property, but this is still been just due to the elevation it's been identified as floodplain. At the time of the building permit, the building inspector would just confirm that the buildings would need to meet the minimum building elevations. And again, development variance permit, looking at 2 issues. One is varying the setback from the parcel line from 10 meters to 2 meters, and then varying the maximum parcel coverage for an accessory building.
All right, you open for questions,
Absolutely.
comments or question from council? Counselor Malmus, go ahead.
Through the chair, so it's not a large land holding, that's obvious. Is who classified it as a large land holding? Is that BC assessment, or how did they get that, or can that be changed?
You got the question?
So it was probably in the original bylaw for the town was large holdings, because it was part of a larger holding, and then it was subdivided off. I'm not sure the mechanism used or the zoning at the time of subdivision. It could have been a home site severance where and it's within the agricultural as well, so chances are it's a home site severance where they just sever this from the larger parcel, and yeah, and it's quite common to see that.
Go ahead, John.
So, but as the size of that property exists, it would actually meet the request for the 2-meter setback as opposed to 10, because it's only basically just over an acre. And so it's not a large land holding. And so on the small land holdings, that is what the rule is. So are we basically following the new OCP and the new proposed zoning bylaws to allow this?
Through the chair, they've actually, like, that's the rationale is that it's a country residential size property, and the setback in the country residential zone, country residential zone is 2 meters.
Other comments or questions? All right, I'm gonna go ahead, Councilor Bushel.
I'll just weigh in through the chair. The Moores are a longstanding family in the community, and it's not really affecting, there's nothing on the backside of that home. It's a large acre, large field. It's pretty straightforward, and I support Scott's decision.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thanks, Scott. All right, going on to C, third-party advertising, public space. For direction, there's a staff report. Jen, would you give us some details on Wolf Banner at Dog Park?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Through the chair. What the Wolf Pet Store has approached the district requesting to display a banner sign on the fence at the dog park. So the current district sign bylaw does authorize council to enter into an agreement for that. However, there are restrictions that you're not allowed to attach any signs to any fences specifically, or there's a prohibition of banner signs unless it's a temporary permit, and then the conditions of the temporary permit are like 5 days. So there are some options for council. You absolutely can enter into an agreement for this if you'd like. Considerations you may want to factor in is, do you want to allow advertising in a public space such as the dog park? It could potentially point travelers or users of the dog park to our commercial downtown. So there's a benefit there. But you may want to preserve the cleanliness of the park and not have any advertising or signs. Those are two kind of directions that council will want to consider in this request. If you decide that you do want to enter into an agreement with What the Wolf, there's a few options here. So one, you can make no amendments to the sign bylaw and say only a freestanding sign, and you would be responsible for the costs of a freestanding sign. You could authorize the banner on a fence, but that would require amendments to allow for banners with written authorization from council and also placing on a fence. So it would just be adding some language, unless authorized by council in writing, would be a very easy amendment to the bylaw. Or you could choose not to enter into an agreement and just receive this for information. And so it's up to council. For the fee, we do have to charge fair market rent or fair market value for the space. So we've calculated that out to be about $100 for a year.
All right, input from council. Councillor Anderson and Councillor Bushel.
I think that I would be okay with the standing sign. I'm not in favor of banners on fences. If we open the door to that, then I get that it is a dog food a sales outlet, but I mean, people eat. So then now we've got restaurant banners, and so it just snowballs from there, and then it just starts looking, it doesn't look very nice. So I'm okay with a freestanding sign with rent, but my concern is setting a precedent, and then are we going to have, a dozen out there? So those are just my comments. I'm not quite sure yet.
Councillor Bushel and Councillor McKay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it should be a banner or sign. I just, it's just nice to support local business, and there's nothing out there. I don't think we've ever had any requests for signage at the dog park. So yeah, I'm kind of in favor. I don't know. You want it to look classy. You don't want it to look ugly either. But yeah, I'm in favor of it somehow.
Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, I support What the Wolf. I buy my dog food there. But I don't know if I support signs, because we're a resort town and people come here because we live in nature, and this sets a precedent, whether it's a freestanding sign or a banner. And I don't think it'll make or break. Hopefully it won't make or break What the Wolf in their revenues. I support new businesses, and I do business. I buy dog food there, but I just have a gut feel that people live here and come and play here because we live in a nice environment, and I think we should try to keep it that way as much as possible.
Counselor Evans.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would support the idea of the freestanding sign if we, because I would like folks to know that what the woof is here. But I would like to know if there's a way that we have a form of character, the maximum size of the sign, the quality of it. Obviously, that's got to be approved somehow. I'm just wondering how that would get done so that if there was, which I doubt there would be, another business that would want to do the similar thing, that they would have to have the similar size and quality as well. This maybe in the same way that we have our branding all looks the same for the district. I'd like to see something that's consistent and looks great for this kind of thing. So that's a sort of.
Yeah. Counselor Momus.
Well, I support this. I think, you got buses driving around with signs hanging on the side of it, to moving billboards, advertising, it's revenue to them. The district of Sycamore, if we create this as a revenue stream and we do it right. However, I do not support a freestanding sign because they're going to stick that someplace where it blocks your vision when you're trying to come out of someplace. Any signs that I've seen, there are some already intersections in Sycamore where you got to stick your nose out so far because there's a tree or a house because of our poor alignment of roads now. I think that the idea of a banner is crap because they look like junk in about a week. So if they wanted to hang a sign on the fence, you got to think about this because there's lots of space between our wastewater treatment plant and that whole fence where everybody walks their dogs. And somebody wants to advertise in there, and we have that fence space. And we said to them, you have to put up a 2x4 or a 2x5 metal with a map on it that's affixed to the fence properly. It would look good. It's not going to be flapping in the wind, making a bunch of noise like the other sign, like that banner would. And the freestanding signs, we have great examples of that along the highway on the Armalite property already. They're all laid down because the first wind that came knocked them over. So the other freestanding sign that might stand is the one on the highway with the Styrum or whatever it is in Salmon Arm in front of my place that looks like crap that I mow around, or I used to mow around. So I think it's a great thing, but I think that staff should figure out how it should be affixed and what size it should be. And they should be uniform. And it's a source of revenue. So and I don't see a guy walking their dog out there, or even if they put them along where the mailbox is. There's other properties the district has, the fence property that looks like crap where our outhouses are on the corner of, what is this? Riverside, and that property we own with a fence around that we're going to lease out. And hopefully somebody's I don't even know if that's happening anymore, but I actually think that it's a good idea.
Councilor Bushel.
Through the chair, I think option one would be the preferred one. I agree with Jeff's comments about the banners. They don't tend to last that well in the wind and stuff. There's some good aluminum foam core signboard that lasts really well. You see them all around town. I think as soon as you apply to the city to have a freestanding sign, I think you really get into some design elements that are going to ruin the whole project. So I think it's either going to be on a fence or it's not going to happen.
So now, I support a local business that wants to put up their sign, especially the Wolf that wants to put up a sign at our dog park. I have no problem with that as long as it's done right. I think that the revenue is great and the advertising is good for our local business, and I think it's a great idea. So I totally support a sign there, but it just has to be the right sign, and how it's applied, it has to be the right way. I do agree with banners, and I do agree with the signs that are along the highway there that are all blown over, or freestanding signs. I'm not so sure that that's the right way to go. Councillor McKay.
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking out loud, dangerous thing. If they're looking for advertisement, we must pay quite a bit to have the doggy bags in the dog park. I go there pretty much every day. And why don't we do a joint venture with What the Woof and allow them to put their advertising on our bags and they pay for some of our bags just in the dog park, not everywhere else in town. And then people are walking away or looking at that advertising while they're in the park. And it's helped subsidize the cost of our doggy bags.
That's good point. Yeah.
Absolutely, through the chair. So we could enter into a partnering agreement with them for the provision of doggy bags. The expense of doggy bags is about $3,000 per year. I think that might be a little bit over and above because the $100 per year is kind of what they were more attracted to. However, on a completely side note, staff have already been talking with What the Wolf on a different initiative of the district called the Good Boy Biscuit or Good Boy Ticket, that they would provide free dog tickets for or free dog biscuits for an education campaign for people that are keeping their dogs on leashes, and we would offer them that advertising on the back of our tickets. So in summary, if there's a good dog, a good boy, we would offer them like, thank you for leashing your dog, thank you for cleaning up after your dog, everything like that. And they could go to What the Wolf and get a dog biscuit. So that'll be coming to council in the near future. And it's kind of that partnering agreement for their advertising needs.
Yeah, so if I could just quickly
Go ahead, finish off, Councillor Mickey.
just finish off, thanks. Yeah, I wasn't suggesting they pay the whole cost of the dog bags, but it's just like putting branding on an arena or a public arena or something. They pay for branding and they can put their name on the doggy bag.
Mhm.
And not pay for the whole cost of the bag, but pay for the right of having their advertising on the bag.
Councillor Anderson.
Jen, I think that's a great idea. The good boy. But Councillor Mo had a good point though, but instead of putting the branding on the dog bag, why don't we charge them, see if we can charge them for advertising, but on our dog collector cans,
Absolutely.
where we drop the dog bag in, because they're, I don't know, we must have 8 or 10 of those around town.
Sure.
So maybe that might be a better location than
Less
on a fence.
intrusive.
Yeah, so that might work.
Good idea. All good ideas. Councillor Bushel, you were next.
Yeah, no, I think, our staff are very creative and they come up with lots of good ideas. And our branding is amazing and it could fit in really well with a sign or a garbage can or whatever. But I think, maybe toss it back to the owners, Trent and Sheena, and see what they think. And I think our staff can come up with something brilliant.
Yeah, dogs could live more by buying their dog food at Wolf's. Okay, live more. Go ahead.
I would definitely support one of those district garbage cans with the wolf on it on my driveway, because everybody that uses the car wash that has a dog, it's at my farm and my driveway is a place to walk their dog. And there's no doggy bag, so they let the dog do business right in the middle of my driveway, which is starting to mean that doggies are not welcome at my place.
Maybe you should start selling dog food there. Councillor Anderson.
I would suggest, Councillor Malmus, that you take that up with the district, and perhaps they can put a dog can there if people are walking their dog there all the time because they stop there. So maybe that is a location that the district can look at as well.
I'd have to charge the district rent.
Anyway, there are lots of good ideas, lots of good suggestions. We're going to take and we're going to put this back in the hands of staff, have the conversation, see where it goes, then bring it back to us.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. D, transfer between reserves. Recommendation that council authorize a one-time transfer of $750,000 from the sewer fund capital reserve to the water fund capital reserve. I need a mover on this. Councillor Malm, seconded by Councillor Aries. Kelly, want to give us a quick rundown as to what you're doing just for the benefit of the gallery?
Yep, most definitely. So this isn't a surprise to anybody that has been attending our finance committee meetings. And that our water reserve fund doesn't have enough money in it and our sewer fund has a healthy amount in it. In order to achieve the capital infrastructure plans that we are planning over the next 5 years, we need to reallocate some of the sewer fund money into the water fund. So that's what this resolution is doing. So I've got this little summary down here that after we transfer that 750, our revised opening balance in our water fund is just over $850,000 and our sewer fund still has 1.2 million in it. So this allows us to complete our works within our 5-year plan and give us a little buffer within the water fund as we build up that reserve, so this won't have to happen again.
Okay. Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
Through the chair, Kelly, just for clarity, this current project that we're working on that is still got 860,000 left in it for the filters. That's not part of this 1.2 million, is it? That's completely separate.
Correct.
Yeah, that's just for clarity. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions on this? Hearing none, call a question. All in favor? Thank you. All right, going on to A, Sycamoose Community Bioheat Project Shared Cost Agreement. There's a recommendation that the mayor be authorized to execute the shared cost agreement with the province for the Sycamoose Community Bioheat Project as presented this 24th day of March 2021. I need a mover on this. Councillor Evans, seconded by Councillor Bushel. Comments or questions on this? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, Saskew 75th Anniversary Legacy Art Project. Recommendation that council support the installation of an art piece at the Sycamoose Beach Park provided by Salmon Arm Savings Credit Union as part of their 75th Anniversary Legacy Art Project. I need a mover on this. Councillor Aries, seconded by Councillor Malmus. Kelly, you want to give us a wee bit of a rundown on this?
Yep, most definitely. So this is a report prepared by Joe, and I didn't have much discussion with Joe, but I am familiar with the project, so I can briefly talk to you about it. So the credit union is doing a 75th anniversary. They have $75,000 to go to a piece of interactive art. They would like it in a public place that encourages gatherings. This piece of artwork, once some locations are narrowed down, the credit union is going to all the municipalities where they have locations. So Salmon Arm, Enderby, Sycamoose, and Sorrento, which is CSRD, and is requesting locations where the municipality would want to work with no financial contribution, but to work with the credit union to have some kind of cool artwork of which we would get no say in terms of what that artwork looked like. It's a community-based thing. It's going out to tender and the credit union members will be voting on it. But if there is a space that the municipality feels like they would want something like that, now would be the time to identify the area which they would want something like that. You can pick multiple areas and give them choices, or you can just give them one or none. And it looks like Joe was preferring the beach park, isn't that the Sycamoose Beach Park? Yes, option one. And this project, the goal is to have it done by the end of 2021 because it is their 75th year. So the beach park does make sense because we're already working on it anyways, and maybe a cool artwork can be incorporated with our existing works that are happening there.
Thanks, Kelly. Comments or questions from Councillor Anderson and Councillor Malmus and Councillor McCabe and then Councillor Aries.
Really quick. Joe did call me about this, and I guess it depends. When we had a conversation, it depends on what the artwork's going to be. Like if it's going to be, as an example, I don't know what it's going to be, but say it's a big orange dollar sign. Well, the beach park is not the right place for that. So, you know, we kind of looked at Finlay Sand or maybe the medical center in front of the medical. But I guess it depends on what the artwork's going to be too. But we have several locations, as Joe's pointed out, 2 or 3 locations that we can put it. So I guess it kind of depends on what the artwork's going to be at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Malmus, you're next.
Through the chair, yeah, I agree with Councillor Anderson. We don't know what the artwork is going to be. That's why I think it's probably best. I'm not sure that option 2 is one we want to consider. I have no issues with 1 and 3. 3, where the caboose is, might, I'm thinking they might want something with some visibility to it. But it's like, you have to see what the artwork is to see where it's gonna fit.
Okay. Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, no, I agree with Councillor Anderson and Councillor Malmus. You almost have to know what it is first before you know where to place it. But I think we should unanimously support Saskew in this venture for sure. And yeah.
Councillor Airy?
I'm just very much going to say what's already being said. Good job. I would support options 1 and 3, absolutely.
Councillor McCabe?
Thank you. Yeah. And Kelly's suggestion, because it might complement our new washrooms we're doing at the beach park. So maybe we could sort of somehow encourage Saskew to sort of lean that way with option 1. That's something that might complement our new washrooms at the beach park.
Well, my opinion on this is without question, we need to support Saskew on their 75th. And when we see the artwork, then maybe we can make a decision on where it goes. I do think visibility is a good point. But without question, we need to support Saskew on this, and then we'll make a decision regarding the location later.
Can I speak to that?
Go ahead.
We actually need locations because in the package to the artists that are going, it's actually going in one of those locations. We're giving the artist options, and then they're going to create something at one or multiple locations.
I see.
And then it's going to be whittled down from there. So if you want to entertain the idea of something in a location, we don't know what that's good. The credit union doesn't know what that's going to look like either.
Do options?
You can give them as many options as you want.
So how about we give them the option of 1 and 3 and put together some sort of artwork, and then we'll make a decision based on what we see then. Councillor McCabe?
No, I like your suggestion, your worship, but I'd like to offer another option, a 200 main. Again, depending on what the art object is it mobile? Is it how hard is it to relocate if there's development on 200 Main, but we don't have any. It's a green space right now. So I think if they need options, we should throw in 200 Main there also.
Possibly, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Councillor Malmus?
Unfortunately, through the chair, I disagree with Councillor McCabe throwing in 200 Main because, the landing is not the landing. But it's been deemed it's a park because it's got all the stuff that a park's got in it. And if you start cluttering 200 Main, it's a piece of property that now is worth more than we paid for, and we might need to use it as a point for funding. And so I don't think it's correct to put a piece of art on it that's going to be there temporarily and then say that we got to move it because we might pay more to move it than it costs to put it there in the first place. So I think 1 and 3 is still.
I don't have a problem with 1, 2, or 3, but Councillor Anderson?
I agree. I don't think, I disagree with 200 Main, as Jeff said. I don't think we have any say in what this looks like. So I agree. Let's, leave the beach park maybe as the first one, and then throw in 2 more options with it. But let's just move forward and agree.
Councillor Bushel, go ahead.
I agree. We shouldn't put it on anything that we're looking at. That's, that's sold. Like a park is a place would be my guess, but I'm game for whatever option, beach park or the rec center, or, even in the Main Street. But yeah, I don't know about 200 Main because it could be sold.
Yeah, so we got to go back to the resolution here so that council support the installation of an art piece at the Sycamoose Beach Park. That's the resolution we have on the table right now. If we want to make an amendment to this, or we can do that, or we can defeat this resolution and form another resolution based on your opinions. Jen, how do you see that?
Both options. So I guess
Both
it
options?
depends, if it starts getting too complicated, perhaps we should defeat this motion, but if it's simply adding Finlayson Park, that could be done through an amendment.
You wanna make an amendment to this then? Or are we comfortable with the beach park? Counselor Anderson?
I think that we should leave it as is because we are doing work in the beach park right now. So, and Joe, it was Joe's recommendation. So
That's what Joe's.
be sure that Joe has looked at everything. So I think we should leave it as is and leave it in the beach park.
All right, I'm good with that. Any other comments on this? I'm gonna call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously, and we're supporting Joe as well. Thank you. And the Salmon Arm Credit Union, the Sycamus Credit Union. All right, low-speed electric power vehicle bylaw. There's a recommendation that staff be directed to prepare a low-speed electric powered vehicle bylaw to permit the use of low-speed, zero-emission vehicles within the district. I need a mover on this. Councillor Bushel, seconded by Councillor Malmas. Comments, Mr. Bushel, you brought this up. Your comments, please.
Yeah, as you know, I have been working, both Jeff and I have been working Murray over the last few years about trying to get an off-road vehicle bylaw. And he doesn't want to go there. So this option came up, and the manufacturer NXT in Vernon are manufacturing golf carts. They're similar to golf carts, but they're more utility vehicles, and they're completely street legal. And they're running them in Vernon now, in Kelowna, and out in Qualicum Beach, and they're running them all over the place. And it's just like a normal car. You go down and get insurance on them. But you do have, they're a low-speed vehicle. They're a low-speed vehicle. So you have to make sure that your speed limits in town is, under 30 or 30 kilometers. And yeah, so I just thought, well, I'd check with Murray and see what he thinks. He thinks it's a great idea. He looked into it. And so I thought we could include him in our new bylaws. But I already found out that one of the manufacturers already sold one to somebody in town. So yeah, as long as we get a bylaw, he can start using them here. Ken was kind enough to put the Vernon bylaw in there, and I don't know if you want to rework it or.
I support this. Does this include like golf carts?
These are golf carts. You put your golf carts on them, but the golf carts don't have signal lights and all that. These do.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're just not a golf cart bylaw. They call it a low-speed vehicle, and they have to have a certificate on them. Like some of the ones that are in town that are already here that Mike's been riding around on do fit this bill.
So that would make our side-by-side vehicles that we have at Public Works legal then?
I don't, they got signal lights, they got mirrors.
No, I don't think.
I'm just.
It specifically says electric powered vehicles.
Yeah, it's not, those ones are gas too. But you can actually go to electric. They make a utility one.
Councillor Malmas, you had a point.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good idea. And if Staff Sergeant Murray is in favor of it, we're a lot closer to where we tried to be 5 years ago than we are. So I'm definitely in favor. And just a comment, I priced out these things, and you can buy a pretty decent car for the same money. That's not restricted to low speed electric.
All right, so the resolution is recommended that staff be directed to prepare a low-speed electric powered vehicle bylaws, and we have that on the table. And I totally agree that staff should look into this and prepare a bylaw. So that's what the resolution is all about. So any more comments or questions on this? Okay, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. All right, staff, I got your work cut out for you. Planning Committee, Councillor Anderson brought this to the table. Recommendation that a planning committee be established and a terms of reference be prepared for council's approval. Okay, I need a mover on this. Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Malmas. Comments or questions on this? Councillor Anderson.
I'll start. I just think that when we had the planning committee prior to us shutting it down, I found there was a bit more comfort with residents and transparency coming in, and they came into council and they talked to the planning committee. before they made a move forward or even applied for a development permit. So I think there was more communication and more transparency. So I think that, some developers in town are just more comfortable with this. So I just thought I'd bring it back to see if there's an appetite to get the planning committee going again.
Scott, can I get your take on this?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. It's something that could be valuable in the process. But the question is, what would the mandate be? And then how they make decisions, how those decisions come to council. I've seen committee of the whole serve the purpose as well, but that's a more formal process and involves all of council. So would the committee makeup be some councilors, some developers? I guess I would come out in the terms of reference. I've seen where you have a citizens advisory committee, they look at OCP amendments and kind of bigger plans. Agriculture advisory committees where they only look at farming. So there's a number of different ways it can be done, and just some direction from council, and we can create a terms of reference.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Momas.
Yeah, through the chair. I guess when the committee that we had was going, which I was the chair of, basically Melinda was in attendance, or a couple staff members were in attendance. And I guess the big thing is it's a small community, and there's a couple of councillors fielded a lot of these phone calls. And so it might put some ease by having this and come in here, have an open discussion about what the developer's trying to do, what our bylaws are, whether they need variances. That was all that we discussed, was whether they need variances. I mean, ultimately, it still had to come back to council if it needed a variance or it needed whatever that council had to vote on. But we had an OCP, and I was on the OCP as well. And so it was just a familiarity with what was the direction the district was trying to go, what the new zoning bylaws that were waiting to be adopted were, to try and fit it in. And as Colleen said, that there just seemed to be a little more comfort level with that. I realize, Scott, that you're now going and making site visits, which is great. That's a bonus, because if you don't go to where it's actually happening, you're not going to be fully aware of what the issues might be. So, but the planning committee, basically, we had meetings, we met lots of planners. When we started working on our zoning bylaws, we invited all those developers to come to the meetings for the discussion about what might be in our zoning bylaws. So I just think it's a good kind of a liaison. I don't know what the terms of reference would be. I don't think we had any really. Basically, we were there to listen, to help understand what they were and understand where they wanted to go, and try to work within our current zoning bylaws and our OCP, which it was valuable at the time, and it's still valuable because we still don't have new zoning bylaws. We're still dealing with our dilapidated old zoning bylaws, which are archaic, basically. And so it just helps move things along, my personal opinion.
Yeah, so just looking at this resolution, I think it's really important that we determine terms of reference, but maybe leave it in Scott's hands, and so that we're not trumping or overseeing the work that our planning department is doing, but we're assisting in the process so that we're taking one step out of it, so that developers know ahead of time before they start spending a bunch of money on a certain project based on getting a building permit or whatever in the case of whatever they're planning. So that would be my only concerns in this, is that we would need to establish some sort of terms of reference within this. Councillor Anderson and Councillor McCabe. And then Councillor Bushel.
And just for Scott's information, I think it was more of just to sit down and planning, looking at the OCP and just giving them some assistance. But I'd like to see it as opposed to in a cow, because our days are very long. I'd like to see it a separate meeting on its own that the planning committee meets whoever, Malcolm, I think Gord, Jeff, I think you guys were on the planning committee before, but whoever wants to be on it, but I think it should be a separate day than Cal.
Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, as far as the terms of reference go, I think the old committee was, didn't make decisions, but they made recommendations or advice, but not decisions. And I think that's a key element in the terms of reference that we agree here now as a council when we give direction to staff, that the terms of reference, that the intent of the body is not to be a decision-making body.
Exactly. I get that. Councillor Bushel?
Yeah, through the chair, I think it went really well before. Staff, all the staff come, not all the staff, but all the planning staff came. And it would be good for Steffi and Sarah and, and Scott, just to, because council could all pop in. They didn't, Jeff and I think Malcolm came to almost every one of them. Colleen popped in a few, Ryan popped in, Bob did. Everybody just kind of popped in once in a while. Maybe it was on a special, an application. They would pop in because they were, more informed about it. And it just got the staff to see what, get to hear what council's vision is, and we help assist some of these, like even Ian Bailey, he had no idea what he was getting into when he wants to open up a restaurant on Main Street. But if he came to the planning committee, even with just a napkin, he would show us what he wanted. And you would already know that he's going to need this, and we'd be able to tell him what he's going to need. So it's not a shocker to him before he makes the application and then finds out down the road he needs a whole bunch of landscape plans and other stuff. So it's great.
Councillor Momas, go ahead.
Yeah, so as Councillor Bushel just said, the planning committee was more to inform any proponent of what they could or couldn't do. I'll use the Cynthia from Paradise. Like, she thought she jumped the gun and she went out and got a survey done when she's trying to get a piece of commercial property changed to residential, which she was basically told that would never happen, but she went ahead and got a survey done anyway. So those are the kinds of things that we want to avoid with the planning committee. We want to make sure that people are aware that they come to a planning committee, just like Gord said. So in the terms of reference, you just bring a loose drawn on a napkin and say, this is what you're thinking and what is going to be the process moving forward. And that's a piece of paper, as I talked with Scott before about, that we've never had, and I've asked for 4 years now. Some document that basically itemizes exactly what the step-by-step process is, so that nobody gets in front of themselves before they, especially on a variance, right? So, but also there's a lot of people intimidated by this building. So I think it's just a more friendly way to say, hey, welcome to town. And if we can schedule the planning committees for the same time every week or whatever, every other week. And if there's nothing there, then it's fine, we cancel it. But I think it's a good idea, because information is king, and that's all the planning committee should be there for, is to provide information to a proponent.
So I think staff's got a pretty good idea of what we're looking for when it comes to putting together a planning committee. So we're going to leave it in the hands of staff at this particular stage. They can bring it back and we'll go from there. And you've got a pretty good idea of what we're looking for. So with that being said, I'm gonna call a question on the resolution. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Colleen. All right, council remuneration and bylaw number 997/2021 for adoption. Recommendation that the council remuneration and expense bylaw number 997/2021 be adopted as presented this 24th day of March 2021. Need a mover? Councilor Airy, second by Councilor Anderson. Any comments on this? Call a question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 2021-2025 financial plan bylaw number 998/2021, first, second, and third reading. Recommendation that the 2021-2025 financial plan bylaw number 998/2021 be read a first, second, and third time as presented this 24th day of March 2021. Need a mover? Councillor McCabe, second by Councillor Bushel. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, call a question. All in favor? Thank you, Kelly. All right, municipal tax information, traffic fines. There's a recommendation that the ticket information utilization amending bylaw number 983/2021 be read a first, second, and third time as presented this 24th day of March 2021. I need a mover on this. Councillor Aries, second by Councillor Malmus. John, you want to give us a report? Thank you.
The reason or the purpose that we would like to have our fines increased, there's several points that have been put in with the discussion, as well as a chart detailing the differences in our current fine system, the fine levels with the traffic control versus our surrounding communities. These were identified by staff earlier in the year as something that we would like to be looking at. And then last week's delegation brought it further to our attention, which is the reason we're bringing it forward today. As a reminder, council did direct staff to prioritize traffic control and traffic enforcement to ensure that our rules and regulations were being followed. And as part of this, there is also a potential to increase the revenue from traffic enforcement, as well as our current level of fines do not allow for unpaid tickets to go to collections. It's just not financially viable to send any ticket out for collections with the amount that we'd be collecting from. And just as a side note to this, I did give a person a parking ticket where they came back to their vehicle, they saw the amount on the ticket, and they tried to pay me the $10 early payment fee, which of course I'm not allowed to take. But since then, that ticket is now sitting in the delinquent file, and the chances of it being collected on are extremely low.
All right. Councillor Malmus.
I agree. I don't agree with the idea that bylaw enforcement can't accept the cash. I don't know why that is, John, because our previous guy used to come in here with a stack of paper and cash. So I don't know why you're not able to do that. Second comment is that I don't agree with the 50% discount. I think we should leave it at the 40 pay early, especially for parking within 5 meters of a fire hydrant. I mean, if you're going to park within 5 meters of a fire hydrant, that ticket should stick. So if you do the $40, you're basically given close to 50% off of most anyway. So
if I could address that, the $40 early pay discount is what we're currently at. So our fines are currently set at $50. If they pay early, they're only paying $10. So in regards to parking in front of a fire hydrant, as part of the proposed amendment, I'm actually increasing that fine substantially. And with an early pay discount of 50% would end up equating to $150.
Go ahead, Jeff.
yeah, through the chair, sorry, I did get that. I just think that the $40 discount for early pay should remain in effect, not the 50% off.
Sorry, thank you.
So, and I don't see in here where it says that you can or cannot accept, like that incident where you were writing the ticket and they wanted to pay you. I don't see anything in the, is there something in the bylaw itself? Go ahead.
No, that's just the best practice, that it's not ideal that staff would be collecting cash on the streets. It's just, it's not a best practice, but there is no policy in place regarding that.
Councillor Anderson.
Not that John is trustworthy, it's just.
We don't want to get mugged.
No, we don't want him to get mugged. I just want to circle back to the reason I think this moved forward so quickly was a couple weeks ago, we did have a delegation that came in and was upset with people parking in places that they shouldn't park, and overnight parking and extended periods of time parking. And we are a community we're a recreation community, of course, and we're the only ones that don't charge those folks for parking. We've been very lenient. We have a lot of businesses in our town that rely on parking to make a living. So it's key that those folks that are parking on the street find some parking, because Riverside is full of it. So, and it is paid parking. So I think that a substantial fine is necessary. I don't know, so the delinquent ticket that you have right now, how do you track him? So he's sitting there right now, say he's from Kelowna. He wanted to pay you, but he didn't, so now he's gone. It seems like a lot of paperwork for you for nothing. What's the process? Walk me through the process.
In that particular case, he happened to arrive, but normally I leave a ticket on the vehicle and they either come into the office or mail in their check to pay the fine or neglect to do so. Staff has a spreadsheet that keeps track of which tickets have been paid and not paid as part of our procedures already. I have since started going through that spreadsheet and have a form letter to send out when tickets aren't paid within 30 days, requesting payment, continuing on through that process. So the ticket that hasn't been paid, the one where he offered to pay me, has already exceeded that 30 days. I've requested the information from ICBC in regards to his ownership information. I've sent the letter out and we've still not received a response on that.
And just to add to that, in terms of collecting on it, if he does not answer any of our letters, we could go through collections. Now, when you go through collections, you do pay a fee for that, and you might get 50%. So that's kind of another reason why it might be advantageous to increase our fines, because then it would be worth pursuing through collections if we had increased fines, if we're going to get 50%-ish back.
Agree.
Councillor Bushel, then Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, good work, John and Jen, on this. I mean, I have no problem with the 50%. It makes it easy. But I was going to ask you for illegal parking for boats on our dock. Does that come into contrary to traffic control, or where would that come in here?
It's in the traffic control bylaw, and it's also in the wharf bylaw.
Okay.
So the fines are detailed in two different locations.
And is that fine? What would that fine be for parking overnight when they're not supposed to?
Yeah, under the traffic control bylaw, Jennifer and I have adjusted it. Might take me a minute.
Yeah, no, here. I was just curious if it should be listed in here. I'm not sure.
I'm not 100% sure why it was originally listed in the traffic control bylaw. This was before my time working on the old traffic bylaw. As part of our process, we are reviewing both the traffic control bylaw and the wharf bylaw, and those sort of conflicts or doubling up will be corrected in the future.
Yep. Okay. No, I was just curious because boating season's coming up and I wasn't sure. So,
specifically in regards to the wharf bylaw for the voting, if they're there overnight, we ticket them and then they get impounded immediately. So there really isn't much leeway on that one.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor McCabe, then Councillor Malmus.
Yeah, so we're a resort town, a tourist town, and we rely on tourism. So out of province, can you collect out of province? Washington, Alberta?
Yes, we can. There are reciprocal agreements between the provinces allowing for information sharing on registrations. It's not a lengthy process. It's just a matter of form letters that get sent back and forth from municipalities to the major insurance agents or registration agents of the provinces to provide that information for their election.
Councilor Momas?
Through the chair, I got a ticket someplace. Anyway, it came to me through either when I went for registration, like to re-register the vehicle or buy insurance. And one other one was fortunate enough to come through me to be collected from my return on income tax. So there must be some sort of an agreement someplace other than a collection agency where you could reap the rewards of this. I know that the one was for a speeding ticket in Alberta that I got, and I didn't pay it. And it showed up on my income tax. I got a letter from Revenue Canada saying they were going to take the $90 off of my tax return to submit to the Alberta government. So there's that thing. But I also would like to suggest that maybe that to do with the parking and our parking issues in the district of Sabres, because we do have businesses and we're getting a few more businesses on Main Street, and our parking has not increased at all. We don't have any more parking capacity. We missed the boat on parking in the downtown core. We have what's on Main Street, 3 or 4 spots on Riverside, but other than that, we don't have any parking other than it's at the place of business. And so in the town of Sylvan Lake, they have pay parking. It only exists between May and September. That's it. Because the locals can't use the parking that's there because people are long-term parking. Now we've kind of corrected that, but I think it's a worthwhile look because we're going to have to do something. And maybe 200 Main Street becomes a parking lot because there is no parking in our community. And if we actually get fully developed, we're going to need parking because yes, we are a walkable community, but not everybody walks to Sycamores. So I'm just thinking that we should be doing something proactive to start to accommodate for parking. I mean, as Councilor McCabe said, we're probably the only community that, I mean, Salmon Arm, I don't think charges for parking, but Vernon does, all the other centers do. We should be looking into that as a revenue source because that's what it is to the other communities. It helps pay for some of our infrastructure, streets, sidewalks. And as long as that money's earmarked for that, I think it'd be a worthwhile.
So we got a recommendation here on the floor when it comes to this utilization amending bylaw number 983. So what is council's appetite now? Do you want to table this for another session and bring it back? Or is that, because I mean, there seems to be a whole lot of input into changing this particular reading. So what is the council's appetite? You want to table this right now, Jen? I'll hear what Mr. McCabe says and then I'll get your take.
There's been some good discussion, but I support the staff recommendations to support this as is.
Yeah, so that's where we're at with this, and then we can, this will be work in progress, so you can see as we move forward. So I just wanted to get past this recommendation at this particular stage. So is there any more comments on the recommendation that we got on the table at this stage? Okay, then I'm going to call the question on it. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Then we'll get to the other aspects of parking and so forth. Thank you, John.
John.
All right, so correspondence for action regarding the Eagle River Secondary. There's a recommendation that council authorize an expense of $1,000 scholarships and 2 $500 scholarships to be awarded to Eagle River Secondary School graduates who, number one, plan to continue their education at a post-secondary institution within 2 years of graduation, and Number 2 are current residents of Sycamoose. I need a mover on this. Counselor Evans, supported by Counselor Aries. I think this is in line with what we had in the past, right? Okay. Looking at Kelly nodding her head. Is there any other comments or questions on this recommendation? I think it's money well spent. All right, going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, there's correspondence for Action City of Victoria. So in some of the correspondence, Jen has put together recommendations, and then we'll get into the correspondence for information as we move forward. So recommendation that the district endorse the Help Cities Lead campaign and that the support be communicated to the Ministries of Environment and Climate Change, Municipal Affairs, Energy Mines, and Low Carbon Innovation Finance, and the Attorney General and Minister responsible for housing. Moved by Councillor Malmus, second by Councillor Aries. Any comments on this? Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
I don't want to sound negative, but here we are with, we already have step 3 in the building code coming into effect, which covers some of the stuff in this. And with the changes to the building code in the last 10 years, we've increased the price of a house by over 27%. And in the next breath, we start talking about affordable housing. And then we have to go back to the government to get a grant to do affordable housing. So in one pocket, they're going, you have to build it this way. In the next pocket, they're saying, well, now it's not affordable. So now we got to go out and get some free money for affordable housing. I mean, this is just a vicious circle. So for that reason, if we're supposed to endorse this, I don't think I can, because regulating greenhouse grasses and all the other things that are in this, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Increase the cost to build a house and then turn around and go, where's your affordable housing at? Like, it's ridiculous.
All right, thank you for that. Other comments at this stage on this resolution? Councillor Bushel?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. It's more for larger communities. I mean, even our new healthcare centers has got all this stuff in it. So, I mean, how many big buildings like this are we gonna have? You know, it's very costly, very, very costly. And I don't know. I think it's for the big communities myself.
Any other comments? Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, it's one thing to get some capital to build a building, but if you build it under a LEED design, and LEED is an acronym for environmentally friendly and zero carbon footprint kind of thing, it gets expensive to maintain. It's not that on the operational side of things. So we have universal design, we have our strategic wellness plan. And for a city like, I agree with Councillor Bushel that the city our size, the amount of buildings we're going to have that would produce a carbon footprint of any degree, I think we can deal with them site specific like we are with our Shoe Shop Healing Center.
All right, any other comments? I'm going to call the question on the resolution. All those in favor? Opposed? The resolution is defeated. Okay, so correspondence for action, City of New Westminster, recommendation that the district write to the Minister of Labor and Tourism expressing support for laid-off workers to have the right to return to their jobs when the pandemic eases. I get a mover on this, Councillor Malmus, seconded by Councillor Anderson. Comments or questions on this? Councillor Malmus.
Again, here we are. We're going to force business to bring back people to work before they actually might even have any customers. We're going to tell the hotels, well, you laid off all those people and we can't afford the $2,000 a month snippet we're giving them anymore. So now you need to bring them back and pay them. It's retarded. It doesn't make any sense at all that the government should tell private industry that you have to bring your workers back to work, even though they don't have any more rentals. trust me, if they have their rooms filling up, they will bring the people back to work because the owner isn't gonna go change the sheets on the bed. I'm just going, this is just interference by government. That's all it is.
Counselor Anderson?
Yeah, I agree with Jeff on this. I don't think we should be dictating who people should hire. If they've been laid off and they get busy, they are going to bring their key people back. I don't think that it's the government's choice, or we shouldn't regulate who you bring back and how many you bring back. So I'm not in favor of this.
Counselor McCabe?
Yeah, I don't think local government should be prescriptive in this, but again, if this is a provincial thing here, and if we were to support, if we didn't support it, like what if a scenario is where the hotel owner brings back different staff at a lower pay scale instead of the original staff, instead of rehiring? Like, yes, as our tourism grows and the rooms get full, yeah, the owner is not going to be changing the sheets, and we shouldn't interfere with what level of rehiring they need to do. But what if they choose not to rehire who is there with the option of hiring somebody new at a lower rate? You know, I don't want to support this only because it's too prescriptive, but it could be abused. I can see some potential abuse there too.
Counselor Anderson?
I think if that happens, I think that's a labor standard that would trigger that sort of behavior. So yeah, I don't think.
Counselor Ayres?
Through the chair, I really agree with their first whereas statement, which is that the way the jobs have been lost has been really unequal. But I don't understand the mechanism, how this will reduce the inequality other than dictating to business something that is rather the rights of businesses to hire employees when they have work. So for that reason, I don't support it.
Counselor Monis?
So when you read through this, it's basically saying that they've lost their jobs because of the COVID-19 pandemic, all right? And it's stating that once that pandemic is declared not effective anymore, it's going to be mandatory to hire those people back. Which, you know, the airlines are not going to, which we're subsidizing right now. And they're not flying nearly as many planes as they were 3 years ago. And yet we're subsidizing them, and there's people gone back to work, and there's not that many people traveling. So it is ridiculous that the taxpayer has to subsidize people, or that a business gets told that they have to bring back people because the pandemic's over. We've had 18 months of this, and people's habits of travel, flight, staying at hotels. People are now staying home. Our town businesses are doing so much better now because we're all shopping local. We're not going out of town. And I think that that's going to continue. I think that that trend of as soon as the pandemic's over, everybody's going to jump in their car, go buy a plane ticket and leave the country and go stay in a hotel. I don't think that's going to happen. That's what these people are trying to say is going to happen, and bring back all those workers. I think that the businesses will bring back workers as required. I talked with Todd about his business. He's in the tourist business, and he's jumping up and down. Last year at this time, he had 800 bookings. He's got over 1,100 bookings now today. So he's having years like he hasn't had in 10 years in that business, in our community. And so he's bringing his people back now. He recalled them already all yesterday. So when a business has the work and the people are coming to support that, the employers will bring them back. Government mandating that you're going to have to bring people back because whether you have business or not is just wrong.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on. I'm going to call a question on the resolution. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion is defeated. All right. Correspondence for action, Let's Ride campaign. Recommendation that the district submit a letter to the Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure endorsing the Let's Ride campaign for a BC-wide unified public transit network. Okay, I need a mover on this. Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Malmus. Councillor McCabe, you wanted to comment on this? It was a late item.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, or at the beginning of this term, maybe it was even the last term, we forgot to renew it or something, but I was appointed by council to be on this BC Rural Health Network. And so I get all the correspondence, and this is one of the correspondence, and they've attached a template letter. I don't know if council's read it, and I'm just recommending that we support this and use this template to respond.
Okay. Other comments on this? Councillor Aries?
Through the chair, I think the Let's Ride campaign is a great campaign, and it might be the thing that gets Sicamous, the transit that would serve our community really well for getting to communities around Sicamous and throughout the province. There's a lot of communities like Sicamous that they need transit, but they're a little bit small to finance their own transit plan. What we really need is all of these communities financing a collective plan. Because if we want to get our residents to a community near us, ideally that community would also have an interest in sending their residents on the same bus. And so we should be sharing the cost of a program like that. And that program should be province-wide.
Thank you for that, Councillor Aries. Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And the province is providing $2 million over 3 years to support 12 community transportation services. I'm reading through this. Malcolm, I don't see our name on here.
Yeah, those are mainly for the lower mainland as opposed to rural. And that's why this template is focused on rural communities.
All right, any other comments or questions on this? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Going on to the rental boat safety checklist, was brought in as a late item by Councillor Anderson. There's a recommendation that a letter be composed to MP Mel Arnold supporting the Canadian Boat Rental Safety Coalition regarding the potential removal of the rental boat safety checklist. All right, I need a mover on this. Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bushel. Councillor Anderson, you brought this to council. I believe that we did make a decision on this on the December 9th meeting, but anyway, it's in the minutes. But your comments on this at this stage.
Yes, we did make a motion in December. And the reason that we decided not to get involved, because in December, all we received was a letter from Transport Canada telling us that they were going to remove the rental safety, the boat rental safety checklist. So at that point in December, we decided unless we hear from our operators, we're not going to address Transport Canada on this. So now we just received a letter from the Canadian Boat Rental Safety Coalition, which is Canadian. And included in that, in those marinas, is one of our largest operators. So we did get this letter from Twin Anchors asking for support. So now it's come full circle where our operators are asking for support, and working in tandem with the Chamber of Commerce today and ECDEV, they are also creating a letter to send to Mel Arnold and the coalition. And our MLA. The reason that we don't want to get rid of the rental boat safety checklist is if you don't have a boat card, the only way you can rent a boat is by using the rental checklist. So if you get rid of that checklist, then you can't take out a boat legally. So if it's such a catch-22, if say, Ryan doesn't have a boater's license, and goes through the safety checklist and goes on a boat, then he comes back, he goes, man, I'm going to buy a boat. So it's a whole chain event. But if he can't get on a boat without a checklist, because he doesn't have a boating card, it stops the chain right there. So, and as far as people that don't want to own boats, like houseboaters or mostly houseboaters, that just want to go out for their week vacation, but don't want to go through the boating card process and pay the $57 or $60, whatever it is. And I think this is a Transport Canada kind of cash grab to get rid of the safety boat checklist, to encourage everyone to get boaters licenses, which they should. But the safety checklist is a better mechanism for sending someone out on a boat than a boater card. Those are people showing you exactly what to do and spending 40 minutes with you, training you on how to operate a boat. The boat card is you get on the internet and somebody sitting next to you giving you all the answers. So the safety checklist is a more effective system. And we're not saying that there shouldn't be changes made, but right now we should not get rid of the safety checklist.
I completely agree with you with what you just laid out. Although we only got one letter when we reached out to the boating community. And really, if they're really concerned, and they should be really concerned about this, we should hear from them. So I think what we need to do is recommend to staff that we reach out to these people and say, maybe you might want to respond, because that was part of the resolution that we passed in December. Either that or we just take it on our own without the response from the locals based on what we feel is important to the community, because this is our houseboat industry, our rental industry and all of this. I've also had conversations with some of the stakeholders, and I think that this is important that we continue with this, because I don't even know why they're trying to do this. It kind of blows me away, to be quite honest. All right, so Councillor Anderson, and I think.
Thanks. To your point, Terry, the Chamber of Commerce, I don't think the boating community, the marinas here, recognize the urgency of this. They did not know that safety checklist could be removed as soon as this year. So there was some miscommunication there, but moving forward, the Chamber of Commerce, we don't need to do it, has sent out emails to all of our marinas, storage, sales. So we will in the next day or so get a flood of emails. So I would recommend that we get ahead of the curve and support this.
Councillor Momus.
Regardless of whether the other businesses in the boat rental, we're a tourist community. We have people that come here from other areas. And as Councillor Anderson said, they don't have a boat license. They don't have that. Somebody from Europe or somebody from even the States, and they want to rent a boat at Red's Rentals, a pontoon boat to go out for the day. He does the same thing. All right. And it's not maybe that they buy a boat, it's that you get exposure. They might actually buy a piece of property because they like it here, then they'll buy a boat. So because a boat now is worth more than a house, some of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we need to support this regardless of other businesses actually haven't seen it or not, because it will definitely affect our tourism here. Like, think about it, 1,100 bookings at Twin Anchors, and he can't send the boat out because nobody's got an operator's license. Like, that would be not good for our community.
I agree as well. So the recommendation is that that a letter be composed to MP Mel Arnold supporting the Canadian Boat Rental Safety Coalition. So I think that should be done if we endorse this particular resolution. At the same time, we should reach out to all the stakeholders.
I think that this letter should be, because it is important, I think that this letter should be CC'd to NAV Canada and to Coast Guard and to any of those agencies that are in this regulatory business of so just so you cover all the bases, right? Like, I've dealt with NAV Waters to deal with building docks and that. And so they definitely should be on the list, because they'll be the ones that are kind of pushing for this. And so
any other stakeholders besides Mel Arnold, so you're recommending
Tap Waters, Csrd,
Coast
Colleen.
Oh, Gord first.
or
Yeah, and I mean, you can CC all our rental operators. I mean, you know, working on their behalf.
exactly.
But to address what you said, Terry, again, I don't think the district, the municipality needs to send out a note to all of the operators in town. That is being handled by the Chamber of Commerce and they are on that today. So the district that's out of our wheelhouse. It's a Chamber of Commerce thing.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine as long as they're kept in the loop.
For the chamber members.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments or questions on this? Go ahead, Councilor McCabe.
I support this because I know a blind person who has a watercraft license.
Drive through the bank, right?
Oh, the lighter side. Okay, I'm going to call the question on, okay, Colleen,
No, we
I
can,
got to call a question on the resolution. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, so there is a ton of correspondence here. So I'm just going to ask council if they wish to speak on any one of these particular corresponding letters of information. We've covered quite a few of them in the resolutions. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss in the correspondence? Okay, go ahead, Gord.
Do we want to, through the chair, do we want to support our small machine neighbors in regards to the 988 crisis line? It seems to be fairly popular, but
Go ahead, Jen.
We already passed a similar resolution, so that's just their resolution.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, I'm giving you another minute. Quite a few of them.
What was
I
it?
want to just make a comment to council in regards to Jen, our corporate officer, in regards to putting all of these different correspondence for information on the list. And I think that it's really important that we are able to take and digest all of these different corresponding letters. There is a lot on this particular agenda, but they're all important to a certain, I've read them all. I've looked at most of them. Some I didn't read verbatim, but and we covered the most important ones through resolution based on our conversation with myself and John. Councillor Malmus and Councillor McCabe.
So, I don't want to be, I don't know what the right word is. I'd almost say heartless because I'm probably going to catch some flack for this one, but did anybody read the Canadian Wildlife Services report? And do you realize that we have some moss that's on the endangered species? And someplace else there's a moth. Like I said to my wife, I think that this moth should get a little flag. So when he's going along and you're driving at night with your headlights on, you see him and you stop so he can cross in front of you. But the best one is a mouse. Province of BC, we have a mouse on the endangered species. I don't know. I go out my door and in my field over by the trees, I see hundreds of them every day. And the crows are picking them off that's lunch. But it's on the endangered species. I mean, wow. Sorry. It's just my opinion. It's not the opinion of council, okay?
Yeah, I read it as well, and I had to take a hard look at it, and there's people that are going to university that study these different endangered species and so forth. I think when you have the conversation around endangered species and when we're dealing with the caribou recovery program and Canadian Wildlife and some of their and what's on their agenda and how it's being used as a tool is concerning to me as well. But it's a process that they go through, and I think it's important that we do recognize endangered species one way or another, regardless of whether it's a moth or a mouse, but and how it might impact us. And one thing that's really been of concern is, of course, Asian mussels and so forth, and how it can impact our quality of our water. Councilor Bushel, go ahead.
First.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Gord. That BC Rural Health Network correspondence doesn't really involve an action item, but it asks us or any community to access to care committee. They're forming a committee on to work on access to care. And it involves healthcare in rural communities and on 3 levels, 3 different ways of dealing with the problem: virtual care, traveling specialists, like specialists coming to community, and the converse of that is patients needing transport to care. And with our Shuswap Healing Center, a big component of that, our critical path for success on the health and addiction sides for Indigenous Splatson is transportation to access care. So I think we should, and I'll volunteer, I think we should get on that access to care committee, or offer myself as a point person for the district as a resource to that committee. We should dive in on that, because it'll help us work towards our transportation goals, and also our Shuswap Healing Center for access to care. So I do recommend it.
Do we need a resolution to recommend them in this case, or just to move forward? And
I would honestly need to look more into this access to care, because they weren't requesting any action or a formal appointment. So I'd almost want to look more into that process if that's okay, and then bring that forward back to council.
Sure.
On what that would look like.
Yeah. All right, anything else, Gord?
I know there's like 20 or 30 letters here, but I think I read every one of them. But did you guys, I'm not sure if you read the British Columbia News about the green infrastructure projects, and Sycamoose is listed in the Biomass Energy Center. Evan must have wrote a nice little article there. So we're in that also. So it's a nice little article about Sycamoose's biomass system.
That's the one that points out both Castlegar and Sycamoose. Yeah. Councilor Malmus.
I just reread the letter that Councilor McKay was referring to, and they're just asking for people to volunteer up their name. So I don't see why you can't volunteer up your name as you're not going to do anything that.
I don't mind staff looking into it further, and then I'll jump in.
All right, any other comments or questions on the correspondence? I'm going to win my bet with John.
Are you? I'm gonna win.
You're going to win. I'm going to lose my bet to Jen. All right, motion to adjourn. Councilor Aries, Councilor Evans, all in favor? We're adjourned.